everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Rob Liefeld Thursday, so we're looking at kind of the last bits and bobs of Rob Liefeld stuff I have left in my collection. As I mentioned before, eventually when I run out, we'll move on to another artist, but as of yet, still have little bits here and there that I can kind of go through to keep this kind of thing going. And I will eventually be doing also that Rob Liefeld kind of retrospective video that I was talking about in earlier videos a few weeks ago. Anyways, I'll have more details on that as I start working on it. Obviously, I don't want to hype it up too much until I release it. So, you know, once I get to that, you'll be the first to know, obviously. So what you're looking at here is Judgment Day. Judgment Day. All right. So had to look at the indicia here. Judgment Day Alpha Volume 1, Number 1, June 1997 is what this is called. Just because there's actually no issue number anywhere to be found on the cover. So at this point, not going to go through all the details, but Rob Liefeld has left Image Comics or has been fired from Image Comics, you know, depending on who you ask, and he's formed Awesome Entertainment, and then he formed another company. Not sure if this is the first one or the second one, don't remember, it happened a few times, but basically this is Rob Liefeld all on his own, still using obviously his licensed characters that he created himself, right, his Youngblood characters. So you've got Shaft and you got Badrock over here. You've also got the Fighting American, is that who this was called? I'm not sure. The Shield, at some point he got, I think it's Fighting American, he got the license for it, basically for his Fighting American series, which is leftover story from his Captain America run. They didn't get to finish at Marvel during that Heroes Reborn thing. At least I think that's what it is. Sure seems likely. The Hulk is in there, but he's purple and his name is Smash, but he's basically the Hulk, right? So it makes sense. So, you know, the one kind of positive that this issue has going is that Alan Moore is the writer, right? So at least the writing will be you know, is this Alan Moore's greatest work? Obviously not, but it's pretty darn decent, I would say, overall storyline-wise. And art-wise, I was surprised as well, even though I don't think Rob Liefeld is the best fit for an Alan Moore script, and I'll point out several instances during the comic where I kind of see that and why that is. But the art is pretty good overall for Rob Liefeld, I would say. I didn't really look into his stuff at the time during this period. And, you know, there's still some of those things you would criticize Rob Liefeld and his art for, but there's some really good stuff in there as well. So I'll try to point that out. His style is he's still being inked by someone else. In this case, it's Jonathan Sibal or Sybil. I'm not quite sure how you say that either, who does a pretty good job where it's, you know, somewhere between his kind of rougher X-Force look and his cleaner, slicker kind of Image Youngblood inked by Danny Miki look, and it's not bad. And there's some good stuff in here, and I'll point it out along the way. Not bad as far as the cover goes. I just wasn't sure if that was like a double spread or anything. It does feel like there's not a lot going on there other than the three characters and a lot of negative space, but I guess all right. Some interesting design choices, I guess, too, with the border and stuff. A very 90s comic for sure. Let's crack her open, have a look inside. All right, so Judgment Day. Alan Moore is the writer, Rob Liefeld is the penciler, John Sibal is the inker. There are some flashback sequences, which I'm not going to go through very quickly, maybe talk about the art a little bit when they happen, just because, you know, within the context of this issue, I don't really see the direct connection those stories have to the main story taking place in 1997, so the dates will be important. So maybe that'll be revealed later on when I don't have issue 2 of this, I do have issue 3, so I'll be going over that one probably next week, is how that's going to work out. You know, from what I know of the main storyline, I don't yet see a connection with those flashback sequences, excuse me, but I'm pretty sure, you know, Alan Moore's not just doing that for nothing. Usually there's a goal, and they definitely will connect somehow to the main story at some point. But just for completion's sake, flashback sequences are by Gil Kane, Stephen Platt and Joe Weems, Keith Giffen and Bill Ray, Adam Polina and John Sibal, and Dan Jurgens and Al Gordon. And we've got special thanks to Dave Gibbons, Marat Michaels, and Rick Veitch. Excuse me, they seem to have helped. I'm not exactly sure how, they don't mention it, but maybe there's a connection with Supreme. Anyways, as I go through the pages, I'll see if I can address that a little bit. So the story starts off with our favorite Australian Gambit ripoff, Night Saber. So yeah, Night Saber's coming in drunk into Youngblood headquarters. Sentinel's kind of the chaperone guy, I guess, who sees him coming in. And this whole sequence, like I said, is just a drunk guy with some narration stumbling towards his room and then eventually lying down. So again, not playing to Rob Liefeld's strengths in any way here. This is just stuff that Rob Liefeld in his own stories, there's no way he would ever write a sequence like this for himself to draw. It's the Rob Liefeld figure work, nothing, horribly out of place as far as Rob Liefeld stuff goes, but just a sequence that we're not used to seeing in a Rob Liefeld comic, and I think it's kind of funny, to be honest. Just a drunk guy stumbling, and he doesn't look that drunk. It's hard, the narration describes it, but I don't know if I would necessarily think he was drunk. If it were just based on the images. He seems tired, maybe, just needs to catch a bit of shut-eye. The old Rob Liefeld chair that he draws everywhere. Roberto da Costa, who's in New Mutants, his dad dies sitting in one of these chairs. If you go back to those New Mutants issues, that's just the chair that Rob Liefeld draws everywhere. It's the easiest form of chair to draw, I guess. So one of the first sequences here in the past, 1868, so we've got kind of a, the original Ghost Rider kind of looking character here, and the Lone Ranger basically kind of look is what's going on here. I'm assuming that's his sidekick, like definitely playing on those tropes. Alan Moore once again using Image as he did with Supreme to kind of tell, the kind of stories he would have told with these. Did he have like the original Marvel license or Atlas Comics license or whatever, and put those together? You know what I mean? So it's basically his version of the Lone Ranger. What's his sidekick's name? Tonto, I think. And I would definitely say that's a reference to the Golden Age Ghost Rider. Is it Golden Age or Silver Age? Anyways, before Ghost Rider was a skull on fire on a motorcycle, there was this guy in the Western comics called the Ghost Rider. So again, listen, Gil Kane definitely a good choice for this type of story. I'm sure he's drawn tons of Westerns back in the day, tons of experience with that. And I think his artwork works really well here for that kind of story. And then it kind of glitches back to Rob Liefeld because their styles clearly don't mesh any particular way. That's kind of pleasing, I guess, is what I'd say. Let's just say they have very opposing styles. All right, so Nightsaber wakes up and his Youngblood teammates are surrounding him, and there's just blood everywhere in this room here. And they're kind of looking at him and wondering what's been going on. And, he runs off here into another part of the apartment and realizes that we're going to find out later this is Riptide, who's basically been murdered, right? So from hearing Rob Liefeld's interview on Cartoonist Kayfabe, I think it was a couple of years ago, year and a half ago or something like that, he talked about this whole Judgment Day thing with Alan Moore. Judgment Day. And how I thought, at least what he described in the interview, is that Chapel was supposed to be the guy who was going to be accused of having killed Riptide, right? And that was playing into the whole O.J. Simpson trial stuff. So why it was switched over to Nightsaber, I'm not quite sure. It could be because this was pushed forward from the Image stuff or something, maybe. Because maybe he was just, he misspoke and he wasn't quite sure. But I guess, well, he didn't mention it, so it does seem likely the original idea was to have Chapel do that, but then Chapel, shot himself in the head and became a demon and stuff in earlier Youngblood's lore, so I'm not quite sure how that works out there, but I guess at some point it just made more sense continuity-wise to move over to Nightsaber here. And this is, I was going to say, like, all the figure work and the Liefeld, isms, his girls are looking better. I find just generally, like these two, Vogue and Masada, feel like their faces are not quite as odd looking as they usually would be when Rob Liefeld draws the ladies. Doing a pretty good job there. Again, this kind of slightly rougher inking that's going on, I really dig, and it harkens back a little bit more to some of his X-Force look when he was inking himself. So this is the Stephen Platt sequence, and I feel like he's, they chose him because they were like, hey, he's for this story, Bram the Berserk, clearly some sort of play on Conan, right? Or Conan, however you want to say it. I like Conan. And I feel like, it's like they were saying, well, Stephen Platt, in a way, is kind of like the 90s Barry Windsor Smith, right? The guy adding all these, like, super detailed hyper lines all over the place. Just, Barry Windsor Smith was doing it on Conan in the early 70s, and now Stephen Platt here is kind of trying to recreate that vibe here. At least that's the vibe I got from it. Very Frazetta kind of composition, obviously, here. But yeah, just I feel like there's a little bit of a Barry Windsor Smith vibe to it with some of the hatching in certain instances, obviously with that 90s kind of vibe to it. It's fun Stephen Platt artwork. I'm not going to complain. He's not inking himself, but I would say is it I'm not even trying to say the name without it in front of me. So, okay, Joe Weems is inking him here. Okay, so I feel he's doing a pretty solid job there. This Joe Weems gentleman, he was inking some Mark Silvestri as well back then. So, I guess maybe just a slightly better inker, more faithful to the pencils or something. But yeah, I'm definitely getting Stephen Platt vibes and not Stephen Platt inked by someone else. So pretty darn good job here, Joe Weems. Other inkers, not as great. So here's another instance where I think, you know, the writing by Alan Moore and Rob Liefeld's art, they kind of don't jive together all the time, especially throughout the series here. So all of a sudden, you know, also Sentinel has quite a different look from his early Youngblood 90s look. You know, I know he had kind of a Boys to Men kind of haircut in that first issue of Youngblood, but now he's sporting the you know, receding hairline of a, I don't know who in 1997 would inspire that. Maybe like Samuel L. Jackson or something is just kind of becoming popular. I don't know. I feel like he's getting that from somewhere, and he's just changed Sentinel's look for no reason. I guess he's changing with the times back then in the 90s. So yeah, the example of the writing, the art not jiving is here. So they're talking about it, right? What should they do? Should they call the police? This and that. And Sentinel, what is her name? Vogue says, "You're being too emotional. This is the team you have to work. The team you have worked to build. Will you let this destroy it?" So they're trying to maybe cover it up, just get it done internally. Do we call the police? They're debating it. And then all of a sudden, Sentinel, "Hey, what's up? Masada just called and said I should get over here." So, like, why are we seeing him from the back here? Like, is it, you know, logically, from what I can see, maybe in the next panel, he's entering the room towards them, right? The sense of the dialogue and stuff would be that, like, you'd see him from the back, but he's drawn from the front. So is he coming up an elevator with his back to everyone else? It's just really an odd panel, visually describing something that kind of doesn't work with what's being said. So that kind of leads me to think that maybe, you know, Rob Liefeld's probably drawn this from a plot that Alan Moore after is going back and scripting. I definitely feel like this is Marvel method. I don't think it's Alan Moore doing like a full script with descriptions and panels and stuff. I think Rob Liefeld would probably ignore most of it. But that's the sense I get here. So I don't think Rob Liefeld's going back after Alan Moore scripted it and really editing or going through, excuse me, what Alan Moore's put down. He's just happy Alan Moore's writing for them, and it's helping him sell books for sure. Here we have Keith Giffen and Bill Ray, if I'm not mistaken, doing a 1943 tale, obviously World War II kind of story, and very much influenced by the art of the Mad magazine guy. I forget, is it Wallace Wood? I don't know for 100% sure. Kurtzman, there it is. They actually helped me out by pointing it out on the rock here. So yeah, Harvey Kurtzman, right? The guy who kind of started up Mad magazine. That's definitely an ode to his style here. And again, you know, they do it that way because it fits that the context of this story, which is a war story. Just like Gil Kane worked really well for the Western part of this story. Savage Dragon is in here. I'm not quite sure how that works since he's left Image, but I guess maybe Rob Liefeld, and since Rob Liefeld has left Image, Rob Liefeld and Eric Larson are still buddies, so I guess Eric Larson was A-okay with having the Dragon come in. So the Dragon comes in because he's kind of a superpowered officer, so they figure maybe he can help out. And he's basically describing that, you know, you're going to need some sort of special court because these are superpowered beings, right? So they can't just be tried in like a regular court. They have to be tried in a super court is basically the concept that's coming across here. Again, like, I think some of the faces, the Liefeld faces are pretty darn good overall. I don't like his dragon. He gets the fin wrong. I don't like these weird, super tight shirts with the folds and the muscles and stuff. It's just an odd look. And also just to stay on type, the dragon, I don't think I've ever seen in his own comic a white top. It's always blue. So that kind of annoys me a little bit. We got another sequence here. The Adventures of Xantar, White God of the Congo. So I'm going to pretty much assume that that's a Tarzan kind of ripoff. Certainly what it looks like. The artwork here, all right, but again, I'm here to cover Rob Liefeld, so that's what we're going to look at. Few things. Nice to see Rob Liefeld doing Supreme. I remember when Supreme was due to come out early on when I started collecting comics and Image Comics. I was kind of disappointed by the first issue, not realizing yet that Rob Liefeld would not be the artist actually drawing Supreme, right? He did the flip cover on issue number 3 where we see him there, and right away realized that someone else would be drawing that series, so I was kind of disappointed. So I do think it's kind of nice to get a few kind of glimpses of Rob Liefeld doing Supreme, who's basically kind of like his Superman analog, or one of them anyways. Few things art-wise too. I do think, I don't know if someone's helping him out here, but all of a sudden, these two profiles right here of Shaft are pretty darn good. You know, I've talked about Rob Liefeld's horrible profile shots, and I just find it weird because, again, Shaft looks pretty good, but this guy, he's kind of halfway decent, you know? He's not a great Rob Liefeld profile like Shaft is here. He's not a horrible one like the ones I keep talking about, but somewhere in the middle. It's not great. But it's a good example of, yeah, just the little bit of strangeness in his profiles. This is interesting to me too because it's maybe the most glimpse I've ever gotten of Die Hard without his mask. So it feels like part of his face is kind of human and the top of it is not. So kind of a RoboCop kind of deal there. It's amazing how many characters at Image were kind of basically inspired by, or directly or indirectly by, RoboCop, right? Every kind of cyborg guy to a certain extent has a lot of RoboCop in him. RoboCop had a huge influence, and it is a great movie, so I totally understand that. Again, here, like in the proportions and stuff, I feel like for a while there, Rob Liefeld was, you know, just going way out, extreme proportions and stuff, kind of, you know, that period where Stephen Platt showed up and he was kind of mimicking some of the things that Stephen Platt was doing with the anatomy. He's reined it in a little bit here. This is maybe some of the most kind of, I don't want to say even mainstream or house style, but most accurate to a certain degree anatomy I've seen Rob Liefeld do. It's still Rob Liefeld, and you know, things are exaggerated, but it's pretty toned down. It's pretty solid overall, I would say. A lot of feet in this issue, right? Just pointing it out. We saw some more there, but you know, I see more here. Let's say it. I'm not saying he's the greatest artist when he comes to draw some of the feet. This one always looked odd, that kind of head-on 3/4 look, but this one here is all right. And again, how much time are we spending on the feet, really, other than right now? Most times we're up here, right, with the cool 90s costumes and the reflections and stuff, right? That's what catches our attention. Yeah, I just kind of think there's something solid about this period of Liefeld and the anatomy he's doing. One more flashback sequence here. This is by Dan Jurgens and Jerry Ordway. Pretty interesting, kind of a DC team up. So I guess they're some old kind of like medieval knight DC comics, I guess, that were out there. I don't know much about those. Excuse me. Yeah, you know, the closest reference I could think of is the Black Knight, I guess, and this is the Winter Knight. So there's maybe he's really going deep and he's going into the Joe Maneely stuff. Right before Kirby kind of took over as the main artist at Marvel, Joe Maneely was helping out Stan Lee in the 50s, and I think he died hit by a subway train or something. Not quite sure, but there's a series, I think he was doing the Black Knight, and this is very similar. I just got that flash right now. I'm not quite sure. So now what's being shown here is Supreme. There's a connection to the Supreme series, obviously, because Supreme shows up. And like Superman, he has not his Fortress of Solitude, but they call it something else, the Citadel of something. I just can't find it right now. So anyways, don't think Rob Liefeld drew this. I think he got an assistant to do it. I just don't feel like there's anything Rob Liefeld-esque in there. And a lot of the backgrounds too, I will say, I haven't mentioned it yet, but mostly throughout the issue, I feel Rob Liefeld's getting help from someone else. Like this stuff here, I don't feel like he drew it. That chair early on, I do think was him. So they're setting up kind of this super court, right? And then Shaft, you know, walks into the courtroom that's been set up, and boom, we see the lightsabers obviously locked up here with Rob Liefeld's version of handcuffs. Just, you don't have to draw any complicated bits and chains and stuff. It's just one big suppository that fits over the character's hands. This is kind of we've seen this before in, I think it was Youngblood #0. There's a shot of Battlestone, who's in court as well. He's got these same kind of, you know, suppository handcuffs is what I'll call them. And then we get a few kind of funny cameos here. So some characters we know, right? So Dragon's there, Supreme is there. Pretty sure that's Glory. Again, another pretty good Liefeld lady face here. Much better than what he's done in the past. Super Patriot is there. Fighting American, Bad Rock, these Newman characters. Not sure who this is. Is this like a cameo of the Vision or something? I don't know for sure. Chapel. I don't know who this is. This, I think, is kind of trying to be somewhat Batman. They're just cutting off the top of his head there, so for trademark and copyright purposes, definitely think that's Batman. And then we've got Cyclops over here, and this character, no idea. Kind of an interesting look with the shadows around his eyes and stuff. You know, the mysterious guy, I guess, but I kind of enjoy that. Almost like, is that Hellshock? Yeah, being funny, obviously, because everyone's clamoring for Hellshock, right? Although the great Jay Lee art is awesome, and I'll be reviewing that at some point on Jay Lee Day. So there you go, guys. That is my review of Alan Moore and Rob Liefeld's Judgment Day. Judgment Day. From Awesome Entertainment, issue number 1, Alpha. A lot of things to describe it, no number on the cover. So, if you are subscribed to the channel and you're still hanging around and watching the videos, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you are not subscribed, like a lot of people who are watching but haven't hit that subscription button, please do so below. Helps us grow, helps get us to 500 subscribers, where once we get to that point, the algorithm will actually recognize the channel as a real channel and help us a little bit getting us out there to other people who are in the same things that we are, namely comic books. So everyone out there, thanks again for watching and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!